Sorry about this. Yeah, I'm going to do a book reading, so you can just tune me out over there. I apologize. But I'm so glad you're here. Thank you guys for coming. Some old friends from travel baseball days with Eric. Todd and his son Jared are here, and Jared's from Granger, and Todd came all the way from Warsaw area, right? You're in Warsaw? Yeah. So I walk in, and I haven't seen them in years, and they walk in today. So it means a lot to me that you're here. I got family here. I've got a friend in the back row that I've known since I was 2, 3, 4, 5. Whenever you first start knowing people. Another friend sitting next to him that I met. He taught me how to snow ski, and I still love it to this day. He moved away to California, and now he's moved back, and I get to see him again. Friends and here, Adam and Shannon that I've known forever. Mrs. Hickey in the mask back here. She knew me when my mom carried me into the crib at Grace Baptist Church when I was a little baby. And then Kim in the back. When my mom was in her last days, living at Brentwood, assisted living and losing her mind, and starting to lose her memories of me. I started walking into my mom's apartment at Brentwood. I'd find these little things, and I'd say, "Mom, little handmade things like a child made." And I said, "Mom, where'd that come from?" I don't know. I said, who gave this to you?" I don't know. And this would happen repeatedly for a long time. And finally one day I opened the door and I walk in, and Kim and her little boy Lucas are in my mom's unit. And I learned that Kim, her son, were visiting my mom every time she went and saw her uncle there. And they just happened to run into her because my mom had a little dog. And she took my mom in, and it's almost like her own. And Lucas treated her like a grandma. And he kept making his little gifts for her. And then things changed, and my mom ended up really declining and ended up out at Miller's nursing home in New Carlisle. And Kim tracked me down in my office, knew I was a lawyer, and found me and said, "How can we find your mom? We still want to go see her." And on the day of my mom's funeral, Kim came up and said, "I loved your mom so much, I'm really going to miss her." There's a book in here, a chapter in this book about kindness. I couldn't help but mention Kim because she and the way she teaches her son and raises her son, they are the picture of kindness. So, Kim, I am grateful for you loving my mom like you did, and I'm grateful that you're raising a son in this world that's going to grow up to love people like you do, and I'm grateful you're here today. So, gosh, thank you guys for being here. And Lance up here videoing. I've known of Lance for a while. Lance and I are new pickleball friends. He's a great pickleball player. I'm learning the game. I'm very competitive, but I'm learning, and I'm learning from guys like him. So Lance, thank you for being here today. Let me get on with what you guys came up here for, which is I'm gonna read 2 sections from the book. One is at the very beginning, and one is at the very end. I'll let you fill in the pages in the middle if you're so inclined to read to see how they hook up. But I think you'll kind of see that the book kind of starts and comes back full circle a little bit to where it ends. And then I'll open it up for a few questions if you guys have any questions. And I'll tell you this, you can ask me anything. You can ask about the book, you can ask about the book, the writing, you can ask about the content, you can ask about my cancer journey, you can ask about anything. So let me start with this. I'm going to start here with an introduction that's titled Losing My Grip. Will I even live to the end of the year? That was a real question I had after a visit to my doctor. Instantly, my life felt like it was falling apart. Worse, maybe ending. In the time it took my doctor to speak a 2-word sentence, my life crossed the thin line between comfortable and chaotic. Cast into the balance of life and death. Like flipping a switch, in an instant, I saw no light, only darkness. I have no monopoly on dark days. You've had your share. Maybe you're struggling right now to see through the darkness. One thing is certain, the dark finds us all. If it hasn't found you yet, it will. If it has, it'll come again. From the beginning of time, humans have known suffering, felt its icy embrace, walked the long road as its companion. It's inevitable. None will escape its grasp. When challenging circumstances cast our lives into the abyss of darkness, everything changes. We feel out of control, and fear takes control. It can be terrifying, crippling even, creating such disruption in our lives that we feel lost, hopeless, and that our best days are now our distant past. Our thoughts turn negative, and we abandon all hope for a better future. We feel like we've lost our grip on life and wonder how we'll get it back. Or worse, fear we'll never get it back. I know that place. I've lived there, cried there, felt its piercing sting, walked the lonely path of that inner journey, desperate to find a sliver of light to illuminate a way forward. In the pages ahead, I'll share my greatest struggle, and I hope you find your story in mine. I invite you to feel your pain in my pain and face your fears through my fears. I'll be open, honest, and vulnerable, and share how losing my grip and finding a new one result in discovering a better way of being human. I hope that by the end you find great hope and find your new grip. See, I suspect you and I are much alike. We've been through some hard days, but this book really isn't about that. There's something interesting about our darkest days. Though they arrive like a dangerous storm bent on destroying us, we have an excellent track record for surviving them. In fact, we've survived 100% of the dark days we faced. It's true. Even though I thought physical death was certain, here I am. I survived. And you did too. Perhaps physical death wasn't what you feared. Maybe you feel like parts of you died from pain, grief, sorrow, and loss. You may feel like pieces of you continue to die each day, chipping away at your soul, slowly stealing any hope to live fully again. Maybe you wonder if life is even worth living after what you've been through. But what if you didn't have to live that way? What if you could step out of your darkest days and into a bright future? What if you could shift the way you think? What if you could make new choices that create a positive, hopeful future, no matter what you've suffered? What if you could discover a new grip on life that transforms how you live? What if you could thrive? There came a day when I realized I wasn't dying, at least not right now. So I had to make choices about how I wanted to live for whatever length of time I had left. One option was to be bitter and negative. I'd been through a lot. No one would fault me for asking why me and living in self-pity. But I decided living like that is just another way of dying. So I chose to live positively and hopeful. But to do so, I had to shift the way I think and learn to make new choices, living intentionally, aware of what's happening in and around me, with new ways of engaging my world, new ways of being human. I had to find a new grip on life. In this book, I'll share my journey through these discoveries. I hope my journey will help you with yours, and you'll realize you have so much more control over your life and your future than you imagined. Sure, we might move forward with scars on our skin or heart, maybe even a limp, the imprints of the road we've traveled. But we will move forward. We just have to decide what moving forward looks like. You'll make that choice, so will I. After our darkest days, there comes a time we realize we're not dying, at least not right now. Then we have to decide how we'll live. This book is about that. Ruin or rescue. We have two lives, the one we learn with and the life after that. A quote from Bernard Malamud. There's an ancient parable about a woman distraught over the death of her young son. Desperate, she carried him through the village, looking for help to bring him back to life. Eventually, the woman found a spiritual leader who told her he could help her if she brought him 4 to 5 mustard seeds from a home within the village. The only condition was that the mustard seeds had to come from a home that had not suffered the death of a child, spouse, parent, sibling, or friend. The woman began her frantic search for the mustard seeds, desperate to find such a home. Many offered mustard seeds, but the woman could not find one home that had not experienced the death of a loved one. Finally, understanding the teaching of the spiritual leader, The woman went home and buried her son. It's a parable. It's not even a true story, and I get it. Realizing that suffering finds everyone. None are spared the pain of sorrow. Life is hard, precarious, a risky proposition. It doesn't always go as we planned. We all suffer, experience disappointment, pain, loss, fear, and grief. All these emotions are inevitable because we are human, created with the ability to feel our experiences, not just live them. But this book is about hope despite our struggle, joy despite our sorrow, and living with a firm grip approach to life no matter what we face. Any conversation about hope, joy, and living a positive, thriving life must begin with a conversation about suffering. There's something sacred about suffering, because in God's economy, nothing is wasted, not even our suffering. It's through our darkest storms and deepest pain that we usually learn life's greatest lessons. The most positive, hope-filled people I have known great suffering. You see, it's not in the mountaintops where we grow the most, but in the hard-fought valleys where darkness lurks. Every time I watch the news, a forest fire is raging somewhere, destroying thousands of acres of trees and vegetation, scattering wildlife and threatening homes and human life. Wildfires destroy everything in their path and leave an ashen heap of devastation in their smoky trails. Nothing left. But if we return to these sites years later, we'd find trees and vegetation, new growth, often including new species of life that didn't previously exist in that location. Wildlife returns, the ecosystem restores, and the area brims, abundant with new life. Given time, the ecosystem becomes stronger, healthier, and more sustainable. The darkness that invades our lives is often like those forest fires. It blazes in and wreaks havoc, seemingly destroying everything in its path, leaving us with what seems like no life left, just a smoldering pile of ashes. We feel that all is lost, nothing remains to move forward with, to make a life from. I know that fire. But through that fire, our darkest times can clear the way for new, beautiful, and abundant growth in our lives. Sometimes we have to lose the life we had to discover the life we were meant to live. Sometimes what appears to destroy us eventually rescues us. Like a landscape destroyed in a wildfire takes decades to recover, it may take a long time before our rescue becomes evident after our lives are ravaged. Few would walk the scorched land after a wildfire and see hope for rescue from the devastation. It's easy to look at our lives after they've been wrecked and see no chance that a rescue is ever possible. The pain is just too intense, like a 1,000-degree flame. But there's always a rescue if we're willing to look for it. In fact, rescue is promised us by the prophet Isaiah, who wrote, "Even to your old age and gray hairs, I am he. I am he who sustains you. I have made you, and I will carry you. I will sustain you, and I will rescue you." Isaiah 46:4. As I live more deeply into the firm grip life, I've learned that through every dark storm or raging wildfire, there will be a rescue eventually, even if the rescue doesn't look like what I desired. Had God decided to end my life shortly after my diagnosis, that would have still been a rescue. A full, complete, and total rescue. I've come to realize that people who die from cancer don't lose their battle. They're rescued from their battle. There are many ways rescue may show up in our lives, but it will always show up. The Firm Grip Life believes in rescues, even when they're messy, complicated, and don't take the shape we'd hoped for. No matter what you've been through, like the forest after a wildfire, the Firm Grip Life believes that something will grow, no matter how long it may take, and it will be beautiful. So there's the part of the beginning and part of the end. It's not